In the damp gloom of a 12th century Irish monastery, candlelight flickers across parchment as Saint Malachy, gaunt and fevered, scrawls cryptic Latin fragments, visions of doom whispered to him by God or delirium. In the final persecution, 112 popes, then fire. His quill scratches like a blade, etching a countdown to the Catholic Church's annihilation. Centuries dissolve. Now, the screen erupts in blood-red titles, a shadowy Vatican corridor, a cardinal's robe trailing over a pentagram, a choir, chanting backwards as a storm swallows Rome. This is The Omen, a 1976 nightmare where Malachy's prophecy bleeds into Hollywood's imagination. Why does this medieval monk's ghost haunt our screens, his apocalyptic riddles repackaged as satanic blockbusters and rapture thrillers? Malachy's Prophecy of the Popes is a masterclass in ambiguity. 112 vague epithets. Gloria Olivae, Petrus Romanus, assigned to future pontiffs, climaxing with Peter, the Roman's reign and the world's end. Scholars dismiss it as a 16th century forgery, yet its power lies not in truth, but terror. By the 1970s, as Watergate eroded trust in institutions and Cold War dread simmered, Hollywood unearthed Malachy's manuscript like a cursed relic. The Omen weaponized it. Damien Thorne, the Antichrist child, wasn't just a devil. He was the last pope, a sleeper agent in a holy dynasty counting down to Armageddon. The film's success wasn't accidental. It tapped into a primal fear. What if the divine was just another puppet show, the Vatican a nest of wolves? But Malachy's allure runs deeper. His prophecies are blank pages for our anxieties. When End of Days, 1999, pits Arnold Schwarzenegger against a corporate Satan, or The Ninth Gate sends Johnny Depp hunting for apocalyptic grimoires. They're riffing on Malachy's themes: corruption, hidden knowledge, institutions rotting from within. Even the Left Behind series, with its flashy rapture chaos, borrows his doomsday math, 112 popes as a ticking clock. Hollywood doesn't adapt the prophecy, it possesses it, twisting Latin phrases into jump scares and third-act twists. Yet the true horror isn't on screen. It's the uncanny echo of Malachy's last pope in our era, Pope Francis, accused by conspiracists of ushering in the prophecy's finale. The monk's words endure because they're a mirror, reflecting our dread of collapse, our addiction to secrets, our craving to see holy robes stained with hellfire. So when the camera pans over a Vatican spire, lightning crackling, ask yourself, are we watching fiction? Or a 900-year-old curse unfolding in real time? In the mist-shrouded valleys of 12th century Ireland, where faith and superstition bled into one, a gaunt figure named Malachy O. Morgair clawed his way into history. Canonized as Saint Malachy, he was no ordinary monk, a mystic who walked the knife's edge between divine ecstasy and madness. By 1139, after years of self-flagellation and visions, he claimed to have received a revelation in Rome. 112 popes would rule before the church crumbled in flames, its last leader a false shepherd named Peter the Roman. His prophecies, scrawled in jagged Latin, were whispered to be a map of the apocalypse. But was it divine truth, or a dying man's delirium? Centuries later, scholars would brand the text a cunning 16th century forgery, a political weapon forged during the Reformation's chaos. Yet the doubt only deepened its mystique. For how could a mere hoax bleed so relentlessly into the modern psyche? The so-called prophecy of the popes is a labyrinth of riddles. Each pontiff from Celestine II, 1143, onward, is assigned a cryptic motto, ex castro Tiberis, from a castle on the Tiber, flos florum, flower of flowers, phrases so vague they bend to hindsight. Pius X, 1903, became ignis ardens, burning fire, retrofitted to his staunch traditionalism. John Paul II, 1978, was De labor solis, from the labor of the sun, spun as a nod to his Polish roots, the sunrise of the East. But it's the finale that chills. Pope 1-12, Petrus Romanus, who would feed the flock amid many tribulations before Rome's destruction. A poetic doomsday clock, or a self-fulfilling curse? The Church has long dismissed it, but like all forbidden texts, its power thrives in the shadows. By the 20th century, Malachy's ghost stirred anew. The Cold War's atomic dread, Y2K's digital panic, and the Vatican's own scandals, child abuse cover-ups, financial corruption, resurrected the prophecy as a prism for societal collapse. Conspiracy theorists pounced. When John Paul I died mysteriously after 33 days in 1978, whispers called it a Vatican hit to delay the last pope. The election of Francis in 2013, the first Jesuit and non-European pope, ignited fresh frenzy. Was he Petrus Romanus in disguise? His reforms and focus on the poor were twisted into signs of a false mercy, paving the way for Antichrist. Malachy's words became a Rorschach test for paranoia, a medieval script repurposed for YouTube deepfakes and Reddit threads. But why this prophecy? Why not Nostradamus or Revelations? Because Malachy's genius lies in its specificity. A numbered list feels scientific, inevitable. 112 popes, a countdown we can track. It merges institutional distrust, the Vatican as a cabal, with millennialism. The end is calculable. When the Cold War made annihilation feel like a button press away, Malachy's final pope became a metaphor for mad doctrine. When 9/11 and the 2008 financial crash eroded faith in governments, the prophecy mutated again. The Vatican wasn't just corrupt, it was complicit in the end. Filmmakers and novelists weaponized this duality. Dan Brown's Angels and Demons, 2000, riffed on papal intrigue, while the Omen franchise framed the Antichrist as a Vatican sleeper agent. Even Y2K preppers cited Malachy stockpiling canned goods as the new millennium loomed, proof that prophecy bends to the fear of the hour. Yet beneath it all lurks a darker truth. We want the prophecy to be real. A world where chaos has a blueprint is less terrifying than one where it doesn't. Malachy's list, forged or not, offers a perverse comfort, a guarantee that someone, even a long-dead monk, saw the end coming. And so we keep feeding his legend, grafting our anxieties onto his parchment, ensuring that his 12th century whispers howl louder with every crisis. The prophecy's greatest trick isn't predicting the apocalypse, but convincing us we're already living in it. The silver screen has always been a confessional for society's deepest fears, and in 1976, Hollywood absolved its sins with The Omen, a film that baptized Saint Malachy's prophecies in the unholy waters of blockbuster horror. Here, the Antichrist isn't just a demonic force. He's Damien Thorne, the adopted son of a U.S. ambassador, his skull branded with 6666 and his destiny tied to the Vatican's darkest secret. Director Richard Donner didn't merely borrow Malachy's apocalyptic imagery, he weaponized it. The last pope of Malachy's prophecy became Damien, a sleeper agent groomed to infiltrate the papacy and ignite the end times. When Damien's surrogate father uncovers the truth, the film's dread hinges on a chilling question. What if the church itself is the Trojan horse? The Omen's success wasn't just about jump scares. It framed Malachy's 12th century riddles as a modern conspiracy where faith is a lie and divinity a mask for satanic rot. By the late 90s, as the millennium loomed and Y2K panic simmered, Malachy's ghost metastasized into darker, sleeker nightmares. In End of Days, 1999, Arnold Schwarzenegger battles a suave corporate Satan who literally buys Manhattan, seducing a woman chosen to birth the Antichrist. The film's New York is a cesspool of greed and nihilism, a far cry from Malachy's medieval monasteries, yet steeped in his themes of institutional decay. Meanwhile, The Ninth Gate, 1999, sent Johnny Depp's book dealer into a labyrinth of occult manuscripts and murder, chasing a text that could summon the devil. Here, the church isn't just corrupt, it's a puppet master, hoarding forbidden knowledge to control the masses. Both films mirrored the era's satanic panic, but their true villain was Malachy's central thesis. Power corrupts, and the divine is always in on the joke. Then came the 2000s, and with it, the Left Behind series, a $700 million evangelical empire that swapped Malachy's papal countdown for a flashy CGI Rapture. Yet the DNA of his prophecy lingered. The book's vanishing of millions of believers, followed by global chaos under a one-world dictator, echoed Malachy's Peter the Roman endgame. The films even borrowed his numerology, 112 popes as a ticking clock, repackaged for an audience hungry for biblical certainty in a post-9/11 world. But where Malachy's apocalypse was intimate, a church consumed by fire, Left Behind went global. Jetliners crashing, cities burning, Nicolas Cage sprinting through rubble. It was eschatology as spectacle, proof that Hollywood could sanctify even the most devout fears into popcorn heresy. Television, though, gave Malachy's mythos room to fester. American Horror Story, Apocalypse, 2018, draped his last pope in Gothic camp, with a satanic cabal grooming an Antichrist in a shadowy boarding school. The show's Vatican was a den of ritual orgies and poisoned sacraments, a far cry from the monks' humble scrolls, yet spiritually aligned. Even prestige dramas like The Young Pope, 2016, flirted with prophecy as Jude Law's Pius III wielded divine authority with the menace of a mob boss. His icy reformist agenda, I am God's wound, channeled Malachy's ambiguity. Was he a savior or a harbinger? The answer, like the prophecy itself, dissolved into smoke. What binds these tales is their debt to a medieval forgery, a text scholars dismiss, yet filmmakers resurrect like a cursed incantation. Malachy's prophecies endure because they are pliable, a Rorschach blot for whatever hellscape we fear most. The Cold War gave us satanic bureaucrats, the 2000s, megachurch rapture porn, the 2010s, cults and anti-hero popes. Each iteration whispers the same warning. The end is not just coming, it's scripted, authored by a monk who saw the devil in every cassock. Hollywood didn't adapt Malachy's prophecy. It made a pact with it, trading his parchment for celluloid, ensuring that every flickering frame asks, who's counting the popes now? The world is burning, or so it feels, and Saint Malachy's 900-year-old prophecy thrives in the ashes. Its endurance isn't divine, it's diabolically human. We crave stories of fallen institutions, of holy robes soaked in sacrilege, because they confirm our deepest suspicion that power is always a lie. The Vatican, with its gilded halls and blood-stained history, is the perfect villain, a celestial empire rotting from within. Malachy's last pope isn't just a character, it's a metaphor for our collective disillusionment. When Spotlight, in 2015, exposed the Church's abuse cover-ups or the Vatican bank's scandals leaked, the prophecy didn't just resonate, it preened. Hollywood seized the rot, spinning tales where cardinals signed pacts with demons and popes mouth Latin spells into cracked mirrors. It's not fiction we want, it's vindication, but Malachy's true power lies in what he doesn't say. Phrases like Gloria Olivae, Glory of the Olive, or Petrus Romanus are linguistic Rorschach tests, blank enough to bend to any era's panic. Filmmakers adore this ambiguity. It's free real estate. When The Ninth Gate, 1999, needed a cursed manuscript, it didn't invent one. It grafted Malachy's vagueness onto a satanic playbook. When American Horror Story Apocalypse, 2018, depicted a demonic boarding school, it borrowed his papal countdown as set dressing. No one fact-checks a prophecy, they just repurpose it. The less it explains, the more we project, and the more studios profit. Malachy's words are a Trojan horse, smuggling existential dread into multiplexes under the guise of lore. Then there's Pope Francis, the living Rorschach blot. Elected in 2013, the first Jesuit pope, the first from the Americas, the reformer who embraced refugees and denounced capitalism. To conspiracists, he's Petrus Romanus, in sheep's clothing. His humility, a smokescreen. His encyclicals on climate change, distractions, while the Vatican's vaults fill with apocalyptic artifacts. Online forums dissect his every gesture. Why does he wash prisoners' feet? Why does he smile at children? The more benevolent he acts, the darker the theories grow. Hollywood noticed. Documentaries like The Pope Answers, 2020, and thrillers like The Vatican Tapes, 2015, frame him as a Schrödinger's savior, both saint and sleeper agent. Reality and fiction blur, and Malachy's prophecy feeds on the friction. Yet the real magic is in the monetization. Existential dread is a commodity, and Malachy's manuscript is its platinum standard. Streaming algorithms push last pope clickbait beside ads for survivalist gear. Studios greenlight apocalypse films timed to papal conclaves. Even the 2020 pandemic got the treatment. Lockdown conspiracies claimed COVID was the fire Malachy foresaw, a divine purge before Peter's reign. The prophecy's longevity isn't about accuracy, it's about adaptability. It's a meme, a brand, a license to print fear. Beneath it all, though, lurks a darker truth. We're complicit. Every tweet speculating about Francis, every binge-watched season of The Young Pope, every click on a 112th Pope revealed YouTube video fuels the curse. Malachy's prophecy endures because we need it to, not to warn us, but to absolve us. If the end is written, if the Vatican is to blame, then our cynicism is justified. Our despair has a blueprint. The prophecy's greatest trick isn't surviving the centuries, but making us forget we're the ones keeping it alive. The prophecy has escaped its Gothic cage. No longer confined to dim confessionals or blood-soaked horror reels, Saint Malachy's doomsday list now haunts the neon-lit absurdity of pop culture, a shape-shifting spectre equally at home in satire and shitposts. Take Dogma, 1999, Kevin Smith's sacrilegious comedy where a fallen angel plots to exploit Catholic loopholes to re-enter heaven. Here, the Vatican is less a nest of demons than a bureaucracy of clowns, its cardinals bumbling through existential crises. The joke? Malachy's prophecy is too ridiculous for even hell to take seriously. Yet by mocking it, Dogma baptized it into a new pantheon, the meme. TikTok edits splice Benedict XVI's resignation with end times hashtags. Twitter threads debate whether Pope Francis's Instagram feed hides clues in emojis. The prophecy, once whispered in Latin, now thrives in the glib chaos of digital nihilism, its dread diluted into a punchline, yet its poison lingering. But for every jester, there's a zealot. True Crime's rise birthed a new breed of Malachy acolytes, podcasters hunched over microphones, dissecting papal mottos like serial killer manifests. Gloria Olive. Could it refer to the olive groves outside Rome where bodies were buried? YouTube essayists stitched together Vatican footage with ominous synth scores, their videos looping evidence of France's Petrus Romanus identity. Reddit's RR Prophecy of Popes dissects every papal homily, hunting double meanings like arsonists tracing accelerant. This isn't fandom, it's forensic obsession, a secular catechism where doubt is heresy and every coincidence is proof. The prophecy's vagueness isn't a flaw, it's fuel. Like a Ouija board, it gives just enough to feel guided, never enough to be wrong. Yet Malachy's true legacy isn't in the laughter or the lunacy. It's in the prophecy's viral DNA. It survives because it is empty, a vessel waiting to be filled with whatever nightmare we need exorcised. In the 1990s, it mirrored Cold War paranoia of invisible enemies. Post 9/11, it became a metaphor for institutional betrayal. Today, it's a cipher for climate dread and AI anxiety. The last Pope isn't a figure, it's a mood. A 12th century monk's scribbles now serve as the ultimate flex tape for civilization's cracks, binding our fears with the cheap glue of destiny. But ask yourself, why does this ancient forgery still hurt? Because it's a dark mirror, reflecting our addiction to narratives that promise control over chaos. If the world ends by design, by a dead mystic's math, then our freefall has meaning. If the Vatican is the villain, we're absolved. Malachy's prophecy endures not because it's true, but because we're terrified of what thrives in the silence without it. The unbearable truth that no one, not even a mad monk, knows how this ends. So we keep his ghost on retainer, paying him in cliques and conspiracy, ensuring his curse outlives us all. After all, what's scarier than the apocalypse? The possibility that it's just random. In the echoing silence of a 12th century abbey, Saint Malachy kneels on cold stone, his prayers clawing at heaven as he transcribes visions he believes are divine. The air smells of ink and incense. His world is parchment and penitence. Now, cut to a Hollywood soundstage. Smoke machines hiss, a choir chants backwards, and a pope in blood-red robes raises a dagger to a sacrificial altar. The jump is jarring, a monk's fragile faith versus a director's decadent nightmare. But this is the prophecy's final trick. Malachy's whispers didn't just survive the centuries, they evolved, mutating from medieval mysticism into a cultural hydra. Part history, part horror, all hype. The question isn't whether his vision of the last pope is real. It's why we've spent 900 years needing it to be. Hollywood didn't corrupt the prophecy. It cracked it open like a piñata of dread. Malachy's original manuscript, frail, debated, likely forged, was never about truth. It was about emptiness, a void we've stuffed with every fear since the Black Death. The monk's quiet prayer versus the Omen's satanic papacy isn't a contradiction. It's a collaboration. One man's divine panic became our collective myth-making, a shared delusion where every crisis, plagues, wars, scandals, gets a papal villain and a countdown. When the young Pope's Jude Law smirks from the throne, or a TikTok conspiracist decodes Francis's coat of arms, they're not distorting Malachy's prophecy, they're fulfilling it. But here's the rub. The more we rewrite Malachy, the more he rewrites us. His list of popes is a cursed algorithm feeding on our obsession with pattern and punishment. We project order onto chaos, grafting meaning onto phrases like Gloria Olivae, because the alternative, that existence is random, institutions are fragile, and the apocalypse is just Tuesday, is too vertigo-inducing to survive. The prophecy's power isn't in its predictions, but in its permission to distrust, to revel, to despair. It lets us point to the Vatican and scream, "They did this," while we gorge on films, memes, and merch that turn doom into dopamine. So when the screen fades to black and the credits roll, ask yourself, does Malachy's prophecy terrify because it might be true, or because we've tattooed it onto our subconscious, inking every fresh fear over his parchment? The answer is in the echo. Listen closely, past the screams of Hollywood's hellscapes and the static of conspiracy deep dives, and you'll hear it. The faint scratch of a monk's quill, still writing, still wondering if God ever answered his prayers, or if we're all just answering ours to him.